Welcome to tonight's Licensing Subcommittee meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. My name is Councillor Natalia Perez and I will be chairing tonight's meeting. If I lose connection and can't reconnect, Councillor Fiona Smith will take over for me. I'd like to remind all participants of a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking. When prompted, you may indicate you wish to speak, but please wait until I call on you before speaking fully. I will also ask that members keep their questions and comments brief and to the point, please. If any councillor leaves the meeting or loses connection during an item, we will pause and wait a few minutes for them to reconnect. If a councillor is not present for a substantial part of the discussion of an item, they will not be included in the deliberations. The quorum for this meeting is 2 members of the committee. If we have fewer than 2 members in attendance, I will have to adjourn the meeting. And now move on to item 1 on the agenda. Apologies for absence. Have we got any apologies for absence?
No apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you very much. Number 2, roll call and declarations of interest. I will now do a roll call to confirm the members in attendance. When called on, please say present and note any declarations of interest. Councillor Smith?
Present.
Councillor Thorley?
Present.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3. Flame 280 Uxbridge Road, London W12 7JA. I'd like to ask everyone participating to introduce yourself as I call on you. We should have with us the applicant's licensing consultant, Mr. Francois.
Yes, that's Francois, yes. I'm the agent, of the application. And I believe, my client, he's listening to us. Yes.
Thank you very much. The council's licensing officer, Ms. Maria Dimitru.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. The council's licensing officer, Ms. Gerda Budeilaji.
It's present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We should also have Ms. Laura Roydy, who's a resident. Ms. Roydy, you are muted. Yes.
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you very much. I also have Mr. Hugo Marshall. Is he with us? No. Thank you very much. Okay, procedure. Before we consider the application today, please may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. We will hear from the following. First of all, the licensing officer who will introduce the application. Then I'll invite the residents which have made representations, Ms. Laura Roydy. And then I'll invite the applicant's licensing consultant, Mr. Francois Siade. Each party will address the committee once for a maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any party or other person present at the hearing. No party has the right to ask questions of any other party at any time during the hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their case or representation. The committee will then retire for deliberations. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. I would now like to invite our licensing officer, Ms. Maria Dimitru. Can you please introduce the application?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. On the 2nd of December 2020, Flame Ltd submitted an application for a premises license to be granted in respect of the premises known as Flame 280 Uxbridge Road. The applicant has applied for a new premises license for the provision of late night refreshment, outdoors only, Monday to Sunday from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Additionally, this application is for a time-limited license till 31st of January 2022. Following consultation with the police and noise and nuisance, the applicant agreed to amend the application to include a number of conditions to the license if granted, as well as reduce the licensable hours. The activity and hours which have now been agreed are provision to late night refreshment, outdoors only, Monday to Sunday from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Following these agreed amendments, the applicant has additionally agreed to reduce the premises opening hours to be in line with the agreed business hours. A copy of these amendments and relevant correspondence can be seen on pages 17 to 27 of the report. I would like also to confirm that these amendments have been circulated to all interested parties, and to date they haven't withdrawn their objections. At this point, I would like to advise the committee that the first condition, which has been agreed with noise and nuisance, is void due to the terms and hours agreed with the police. The licensing section received 22 representations from local residents objecting to the license application. A copy of this can be seen on pages 30 to 52 of the report. Finally, I would like to point out that the premises is situated within the Shepherd's Bush Cumulative Impact Policy Zone. Nothing further from licensing at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dimitru. I would now like to invite Ms. Laura Roydy, who's speaking on behalf of local residents. Roydy, over to you. And you have 5 minutes.
Right. First of all, let me make it clear, I am speaking on my own behalf. I am one of many residents, but I think we all have slightly different issues. So thank you for letting me speak, and can I thank the applicants for reducing the hours of opening, which I think was everyone's principal objection. As a local resident, Warbeck Road runs directly opposite Flame's premises. And we are very conscious of a number of items which really go in a circle. We are all thinking that we are in a residential area. In fact, of course, it is a mixed residential and retail and restaurant area. And what one wants is to try and live in a balance. We have increased traffic problems because of restaurants, and particularly those that are open late at night. The increased traffic means more pollution. People tend to sit in their cars with their engines throbbing. It can lead to lack of parking for the residents in the area. There is increasingly a shortage of residents parking. There seem to be more calls on the spaces. The food element leads to increased litter in the area, and that in turn leads to increased nuisance from our very active local foxes and rats. And of course, we are very aware of the possibility of more antisocial behaviour from the people who visit the restaurant, because they are not necessarily very respectful of it being also a residential area. So I note that the police and the council have made some amendments, and I welcome the assurances from Mr. Ziad and his colleagues, but I feel that that is not really quite enough, and I am unhappy that still the licensing hours go till midnight. I know that there are many other establishments in the area where their licensing hours in fact do go till 3 o'clock in the morning. But I also am very curious, because every time I go past the restaurant, I see virtually no clients there. So I'm looking for further assurances from both Mr. Ziad and the council that if we as residents find that there is more nuisance than you believe that we will encounter, that we can do something very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodi. I would now like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative, Mr. Francois Siaide. Can you please address the comments which have been made? You also have 5 minutes.
Okay, say hello to everyone, and I would like to thank you to let me know to talk on behalf of our client of Flame. I'm interior designer. I'm the agent of the applicants, and based on client's requirements, he asked first, till 5 o'clock. Then the police reduced it, and we agreed to reduce till 1 o'clock morning. So I believe this is just only like a 2 hours increasing of sale. That restaurants will be remain open, but without like a full activity of grilling and operating fully equipment, because we have a license till 11:30 or 11. This we can make all the preparation, all the food, and make it ready. We'll leave it in fridges, and the customer, they can pass and collect, like as will be as mini markets, like ready-made food. So I believe we guarantee that there is no noise or disturbance, after 10 o'clock. Like the fan, all equipment will be shut after 10 p.m. And the client also, he agreed there is no waste, will be produced, and left outside the premises. And also he agreed there is no loading or offloading materials, food, whatever, during the time of the after night refreshment. And he believe, there is like 2 or 3 shops nearby has the license, till like Nando's, Wine Mart, Semi Halal Chicken, Chicken Cottage, and Pizza Corner. I know you cannot compare, because there's some of them that are they have a license, I believe A5 takeaway, but our premises is just only like A3 dining. But during this pandemic crisis, the client, he wants to add more hours just to increase his business. This is the main requirement from our clients. So if they have anyone has an objection, we are ready to amend, or we can just agree on the conditions. So that's it. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much, Mr. Siaide.
Yes.
I'd like to invite members of the committee to ask questions of any of the parties here this evening. Who would like to start, please? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your representations. I'd just like to go to the applicant's representative first. Just to paraphrase what I think I've heard, tell me if I'm incorrect. What you're proposing is ready-made meals that people can collect. There won't be cooking done in these out-of-hours times. Someone will pitch up and collects like a little portion of something and take it away.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And I think you mentioned something about that there won't be any rubbish as a result. How can you claim that? What measures will you take to combat rubbish? We've heard that there is a fear of it. You can't guarantee there'll be no rubbish, absolutely, unless you have perhaps something in mind.
Regarding the rubbish, they have like a certain time to left, the rubbish outside on the pavement, and the council has an agreement to collect them every morning, as I know. So during this time of late night refreshment, there is no waste or rubbish left in the front of the premises. and we gonna fit a camera, CCTV, that will be operated like 24 hours, operated from the police and from our team. So if anything, goes wrong, so everything's recorded. So I'm sure the clients will be responsible for any problem.
I think I understand commercial rubbish, and there are conditions the council has to comply with that. I'm a little perplexed at customer rubbish, and how just by virtue of CCTV being there, that there won't be any. I mean, there will be rubbish. What steps can you take to ensure there's minimal to no rubbish from consumers late at night?
We have a rear storage room, so everything will be stored inside the room and everything will be clear. So this is what we can guarantee. There is no production of food, whatever, during this time.
So what I mean is, me as a consumer, I turn up and I buy something, I then eat it, I then chuck the rubbish on the floor. Or is that an inconceivable thing with the food service you're operating? There are fast food outlets, Shepherd's Bush has a plethora of them, and typically some consumers, badly behaved ones, will turn up, have their meal, and put the contents on the floor, not in a bin. That's what I'm getting at. Not commercial rubbish from yourselves, but the customer end.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah. We can leave like one container or one bin, inside the shop at the main entrance. So we'll be clear, every day. We'll be inside the shop. So I believe it will solve, the problem. And clients, if they have any rubbish, so each one will be responsible for his own rubbish. But in the front of the premises or inside, we'll provide a bin inside the shop, because it's just only like waste of plastic, cans, or anything.
Okay. Not to labour the point too much. I know you can't be responsible for the entire greensward or the street, but the area immediately outside, the immediate pavement, might potentially, because people shouldn't be consuming inside at the moment anyway. That's kind of the point I'm sort of driving at, which would bring up the residents' concerns about vermin and so forth. This is a bit of a tricky question, but I shouldn't conflate this application with other ones we've heard lately. But quite often, the justification in these difficult times, and I have every sympathy with businesses who are struggling, to combat COVID-19 is to open later and to open more and just somehow create more business. We've heard from the resident that the daytime seems quiet. I don't know your establishment, so I can't say if that's the case or not. But will opening more hours achieve as regards benefiting your business during the pandemic? Mr. Zier, did you hear my question? Pardon me.
Yes. Okay, now it's clear for me. Yes, the client, he's willing, to open like 2 hours just to increase, his income, especially during this crisis. This is the main request, for him. He's struggling, and also there's no customers, and there's no one can sit or eat inside. So this 2 hours, it will recover his expenses, and will be one person also will be supervised at the main door, will be supervised the customers who in, who out.
I haven't worked in fast food for years, but the idea of employing an extra person plus door staff, etc., that's a lot of upfront cost, as well as your I don't know, electricity. You've got a lot of cost up front. How is being open an extra couple of hours, etc., really going to tackle the business's problem? I just want to see a link between opening at those times and COVID-19. Sure, I see an obvious connection, except that more hours might mean more income. Or have your customers restrictions that you would like to come in at those times? Like, how have you arrived at that possible solution?
Also the shop is closed, is nearby by Shepherd Bush station, and most of his clients or customers are from Middle East. They prefer to eat after 11, after 10, 11 till 2 o'clock. That's why he opened also for this such of people. They need food after 10 o'clock, because he closed at 11 and he needs some like extra hours. The COVID-19, it's just adding for his business, just only adding more income.
Okay.
But in normal time, yes, he require, yes, but the normal time, yes, he required to add 2 hours just to increase his income. With COVID, without COVID, yeah, this will be the same. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So regardless of the current situation. Okay. Yeah. That's helpful to me. That's all from me at the moment. If other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Before I invite Councillor Thorley to ask questions or make comments, I would like to go back to one of the points that you were raising, Councillor Smith. And Mr. Francois, which conditions have you agreed to with noise and nuisance, please?
Yeah, the condition is just to shut, and there is no operation, from 11 till 1 o'clock. There is no operation, no grilling, or no fan will be operated during this time. So this will be under client's responsibility, as he agreed with this condition.
The reason why I'm asking this is because I note from the agenda papers that there's reference to litter patrols. It says here, a responsible member of staff shall carry out proactive litter patrols outside the premises, at least hourly throughout the premises, opening hours after 2300 hours, and specifically at the end of trading hours, to ensure that there is no litter associated with the premises in the immediate vicinity. And any such litter found shall be collected and returned to the premises for disposal with the premises normal waste refuse collection. So having read this, I'm surprised when you answered Councillor Smith's question about litter that you didn't allude to this condition. So my question is, are you planning to have, if you were granted, the license to have litter patrols or not?
I have to ask, my clients, because I'm on behalf of him, and this condition I have to get, his permission if he's okay. But I'm sure, he'll be agreed, for this point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thorley, over to you. Have you got any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a few, Chair. If I could turn to licensing first. First of all, you mentioned in your opening summary, obviously that the application has been amended from what was initially submitted. So the hours that we're looking at are 11 p.m. till 1 a.m. Monday to Sunday. But I think you also mentioned that initially there was what I would call a sunset clause. It was a time-limited application to the 31st of January next year. Is that still the case, or has that been amended?
This hasn't been amended. As far as I'm aware, this is the case, yes.
Okay, thank you. And the second thing I just want to seek clarification on was on page 5.4.1, there is a reference made to the enforcement history, which would indicate that licensing were made aware of a possible infringement and then observed via council CCTV infringements on the 6th, the 31st, and the 9th of November. Could you just clarify what those infringements were and what action licensing has taken?
We have Christina Perez, our licensing compliance and enforcement officer, with us, who will help me with any enforcement questions. Christina?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Councillor. I can confirm that unlicensable activities were observed via Council CCTV on the 6th and 31st of October last year and the 9th of November last year as well. Subsequently, we raised these offences with the owner at the time and issued a warning letter on the 1st of December outlining the licensing breaches. Following this letter, no further offences have been observed and no further enforcement action has been taken against this premises.
Thank you very much. If I could just turn briefly to the applicant, if they could comment on this. It would seem to me that these breaches you were made aware of these breaches, and subsequent to that, you obviously submitted an application to secure a license. Is that a fair summary as to what happened here? Sorry, to Mr. Francois, if you're able to answer.
Yeah, just double check, that. Yes, we have received, your notifications and enforcement team as before. Yeah, I believe it's on 1st of December, yes, by Mr. Adebayo. And then our client, he agreed, to submit an application based on that.
So was your client not aware before the notification they received on the 1st of December that they were operating without a license?
Yes, he is aware, yeah, of that. I'm sorry, I lost communication.
Sorry, the reason I asked is I've just been looking on your web, well, not your website, it's a website held by a company called Just Eat, and they reference your opening hours are up to midnight, which obviously you say at the moment you don't have a license for. I'm just trying to understand what encouraged you to make the application. If I could remain with you, Mr. Francois, briefly, just to understand the application, you've taken a bit of time to explain the nature of the business. I'm a little perplexed looking at your application to understand how the conditions you put forward really relate to the business you're describing. If I turn to your application, and I don't want to go through every element of the conditions that you have put forward, not the conditions the police and noise and nuisance have suggested, because it comes down to the enforceability, really. You have made the case that your client is requesting an additional 2 hours, both because of the financial pressures that the business is under linked to COVID, but also due to their clientele.
Right.
But as Councillor Smith said, you've put forward conditions, one of which is a qualified doorman will be employed from 10:30, and there will be at least one door supervisor for each 20 persons. Okay, these are significant.
Councillor Thorley, are you with us? Hello?
Yes,
Yes, I think we're waiting for Councillor Thorley. I think his internet is frozen. Oh, Councillor Thorley, here.
back.
Am I back or not back?
You're back, you're back.
Back, yes.
Sorry, apologies. I've got a little thing saying my internet is unstable. Sorry, the gist of my question, I don't know when you lost me, was really the conditions you put forward. A number of them, in my opinion, would be more appropriate for a premises, say, selling alcohol. Why have you felt the need to put these forward? Because if the license were to be granted and these conditions that you put forward attached to the license, you are responsible for discharging those conditions. And obviously, if you don't, it is a criminal offence and you would run the risk of losing your license. So again, I'd just like to understand why you feel these conditions are appropriate for the type of premises that is being run here.
Yes, I believe, the client, he's willing, to accept, any conditions, if it's suitable for customers, for the neighbors, and for the police and the council. So whatever, you know, is agreed, you know, he's willing to agree. He just only to sell off, like sale of his goods, you know, ready-made food. So that's it. He doesn't want, you know, more than this. So if it's any conditions, he will be liable, you know, for any disactivation, you know, his license or anything. So he's liable for anything applicable for him.
All right, Chair, I've got a bit of a, no, thanks. I understand that, and I think your willingness to agree to the conditions is commendable, but clearly they have to be enforceable conditions that you can carry out as a business. And I am worried, you know, you are in an area that was referenced, you know, by licensing in a cumulative impact area where, if you will, the burden is on the applicant to demonstrate they will not cause undue harm in terms of the 4 licensing objectives. And we are aware from residents, not just from this application, but obviously that's the one we're considering tonight, there is, you know, huge issues in the immediate area of Shepherd's Bush. And I am concerned, if you were to operate up till 1 o'clock, that the conditions you've suggested, as much as you say you're willing to take on any conditions, I wonder whether or not you have the capacity to carry them out. Because if you can't do it, then clearly there will be a disproportionate impact on local residents and will not promote the 4 licensing objectives. So again, it's very good to hear you're willing to do everything, but really, what faith can we have as committee? Do you have the ability to enforce and operate these conditions?
Yeah, most of the conditions, you know, is acceptable, you know, by client. You know, I'm his agent. You know, some question I can't reply you or I can't agree with you till get a confirmation from our client. So I'm just only as, you know, agent and just talking on behalf of him. As I know, you know, he is liable, you know, for anything or any concern you flag up, you know, I'm sure, you know, he's aware of all. Yeah.
What my real concern is here is, I say, we are in one of the 2 cumulative impact areas of Hammersmith and Fulham. Yeah. You've put forward a number of conditions, you've agreed to a number of conditions, yeah. But what I would expect to see, if I'm honest, is a slightly more thought through set of conditions. And I'm not seeing that in the papers. And I want to understand why you've put forward the conditions you have, when a huge number of them, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't think are appropriate for the business that you've said you're operating. You know, there are restrictions on under 18s coming in. That is appropriate for a premises selling alcohol. I don't think it's appropriate for a fast food premises. So I just want to understand why you feel they are appropriate.
Yeah, we don't sell, you know, alcohol, and I know the under age of 18 is not allowed, you know, to come into the premises, you know, during this license time between 11 and 1 o'clock. So the client and the person who is in charge, you know, will be liable and responsible. I can't answer, you know, more than this, you know, unless, you know.
Okay, no, I'm
not able, you know, to answer, you know, more than this, you know, as an agent. Yeah.
Sorry, just following on from this topic of conversation, Mr. Ziad, can you please tell me if the applicant and you as a representative of the applicant know if the applicant has agreed to all conditions added to the operating schedule?
Yes, he's agreed, yes.
So why are you telling us this evening that you're not sure about the conditions that we are discussing here?
No, he agreed, you know, on this, you know, but I can say more than this, you know. I can say, you know, because most of the correspondence emails is agreed by our clients, and I represent him to agreed on behalf of him.
Thank you, Councillor Thorley. Would you like to follow?
I think, to be honest, Chair, that was the bulk of it. Yeah, all I would say is the operating schedule as I have it in front of me, I'm afraid doesn't fill me with a lot of faith. But I think actually there was one other question I wanted to answer because it was brought up by the resident, was regarding traffic and deliveries. Could you just confirm, does the premises intend to operate deliveries in terms of Uber Eats delivery or anything like that between the licensable hours?
No, there is no like Uber or, like fast food, whatever, delivery, on this line. Just only like collecting or like pick up food, as I know, from my clients. There is no Uber or any Just Eat or anything will be in charge, for takeaway food from the shop. So there is no bike or no motorcycle or any van or anything will park, on the front, except, maybe the residents or who's passed by collecting, his food during this time.
Thank you, Raj. And Laura, if I could just very briefly turn to you. Obviously, you live very, very nearby. You are, as I mentioned earlier, in a cumulative impact area. Could you just, you did touch on it in your representation, could you just touch on the nature of the area, not just in relation to traffic and deliveries, but it would be great if you give me a little bit more clarity on that, but also explain how the nighttime economy has historically impacted you as a resident. I appreciate during COVID times, one would hope it is quieter, but if you could just touch on those 2 points, I'd be very grateful.
Can you hear me? Right. I apologise. I am not the best person at the moment to comment on nighttime economies and traffic, other than from my house, because I am old and shielding. And so the time that I go out, in fact, is at 8 o'clock in the morning when there are very few people around. Just to come back on my traffic point, I accept Mr. Ziad's statement on deliveries. I am far more concerned as a resident with the clients of the restaurant who come and who play very loud music and leave their cars running or their car engines running, and therefore impact on the residential noise and pollution issues. The top of Warbeck Road leads on to Uxbridge Road and is immediately opposite the premises in question. And at the top of our road, we are constantly plagued, and admittedly Flame is not the only restaurant there, with cars who come to pick up takeaways. And as I say, they are noisy, they pollute, and frequently, I'm afraid, they chuck the litter out of their cars. I accept the restaurant cannot stop that, but as residents, it gives us a problem because street cleaning in the borough doesn't happen very often. We understand why not. The foxes operate all the time, and they take the leftovers and they distribute them around the residents' gardens. That invites rats. London is full of rats, we know that. We just don't need to encourage either of these fauna to make our lives less pleasant. But I am concerned that, as you, Councillor Thorley, have said, these conditions, that they are unenforceable. And that's really the premise of my objection. They may have all the goodwill in the world, but I certainly can't see this actually coming to fruition in the way that we might be intended to believe it at the moment. There's been an implication that the business is failing because of the current climate. And opening for 2 hours longer and upping their staff costs, I would not wish to be doing their business plan. I can't see that I feel in any way comforted by Mr. Ziad's answers. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Chair. That's all from me.
Thank you very much. I would now like to ask licensing, please. What's your view in relation to the conditions? Are they enforceable?
Is that
Christina, I don't know if that's something you're able to comment on in the first instance.
no, sure. So in terms of the conditions agreed with police and noise and nuisance, they are enforceable with the exception of the void condition proposed by the noise officer that was mentioned at the beginning. There are some conditions that was proposed. Sorry, I'm just looking at the application. They were proposed in the operating schedule that would either need to be amended. I just want to get them up. Apologies, one moment.
No problem.
I mean, some of the conditions, for example, the first ones in terms of admission to the premises, these would be enforceable. I just want to, it will probably be worth clarifying with the applicant if they understand how restrictive that would be and if that's what they intend to propose. But they did mention that this is what was proposed in the application. So if they want to restrict admission to the premises for takeaways after 11 p.m. to customers over 18, then these conditions are enforceable. But of course, if this license was granted, we would expect that to be in place. Other conditions, for example, in terms of that they proposed, just 1 second, apologies. The litter patrols.
Ms. Perez, have you finished?
Sorry. No, sorry,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Apologies. They did propose staff regularly patrolling the premises to supervise customer conduct outside. More details would be required on this. We would expect details of what times, how often a patrol is going to take place. And we would also request, if this license was to be granted, that the conditions specify that a register is put in place to note the patrols that were made and and that register be made available to enforcement officers on inspection. So some of the conditions are not enforceable and would need to be amended in order to be enforceable. That's, of course, is up to the committee to decide as they can amend the condition if they were to grant this application. It may that some conditions would require amendments.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Perez.
Chair, so I just had one point to raise as well.
Yes, please go.
Yeah, just to say, I mean, there is a condition there, I think, in relation to door supervisors as well. And, you know, if they do have door supervisors at the premises, they do need to be SIA registered. And I don't know whether the license holder knows how much that costs. You know, they are expensive. There is quite a large cost associated with that. So it's just another thing really just about whether the license holder is fully aware of the implications of all the conditions that they've proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Overton. Mr. Ziade, is your client aware of the implications of the conditions that have been agreed?
Yes, yeah. He's aware of all, yes.
Okay. Another question to you, Mr. Ziade. What is your client's understanding of Shepherd's Bush cumulative impact policy zone, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't get you. I'm sorry for that point.
What is your client's understanding of Shepherd's Bush cumulative impact policy zone? Cumulative impacts zone policy, sorry.
Sound policy.
Yes, Shepherd's Bush has got a policy on cumulative impact. Is your client aware of this policy and what it entails?
I believe yes, as I know, I believe he's all aware of for all, but I'm not sure 100%. As I know, yes, but I'm not sure 100%.
Okay.
Because he lives there, you know, his premises is there. I'm not familiar with the area, so I believe he's aware of all.
Ideally, we would also have the applicant here this evening to answer questions, but yeah, I understand you're representing the applicant tonight. Thank you very much. Are there further questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, Councillor Smith.
Just one more thing to Mr. Ziad. If the applicant were here, I would ask him if he understands the 4 licensing objectives, and I would have repeated the chair's question had she not asked it. I appreciate your representing them, and that usually infers a degree of shared knowledge or cooperation. But hopefully you know them and can answer this question. It would just help me out a little bit. Can you summarize their experience in running premises like Flame? What's their background, and did they do anything prior to this, and what was it like?
As I know, Flame is an Arabic authentic selling food, sandwiches and dining. More than this, I don't know. You know, I know their clients through person, as I know him. He's a new business in London.
So has the applicant had experience elsewhere before taking this premises on? Is my question, or do you not know?
I have no idea. I don't know any about the background. I know the owner of the premises, the landlord, but he's a tenant who's applied for that. He's a tenant, and a new business he's operating here in London.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all me, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Smith and Councillor Thorley, for your questions and comments. If there are no further questions, I would now like to invite everyone to sum up, please. So please can the party sum up as briefly as possible in the following order. First of all, the licensing officer, then Ms. Laura Roydy, and then Mr. Francois Ziadi. You have up to 3 minutes to sum up if you wish to take those 3 minutes. So, Ms. Dimitru?
Nothing further from licensing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roydy?
Right, I haven't anything further to add, but I fear that, I think my fears remain founded. I have heard nothing this evening to make me confident that the applicant is a safe person to run premises in this difficult but vibrant area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roydy. Mr. Ziadi? Yeah,
I believe, you know, as I discussed, you know, for many times, you know, with the clients, he's liable and control, you know, whatever, you know, inside his premises and in front of his business. So more than this, I don't think, you know, he's able to control people in the street or antisocial people, people outside. So in the front of his premises and inside, I believe he's liable and agreed, you know, for all conditions applied to him. Thank you.
Chair, could I just make a point as well, really quickly?
Yes, of course, Mr. Robertson. Go ahead.
I mean, as you'll note from the report, the licensing authority didn't make a representation on the basis of the cumulative impact area, but other authorities have mentioned it, so obviously you can take it into account. And then I just wanted to draw your attention to section 6.5 of our policy that actually mentions about cumulative impact without a cumulative impact policy per se being in place as well. And then section 1420 of the guidance issued by the Secretary of State also talks about the same thing, where cumulative impact can generally be taken into account. And the reason that I mention it is because our policy actually expires in April this year. And we wanted to gather evidence for a new policy in the summer last year, but obviously due to COVID, we couldn't do that. So that's why we've got the situation where a policy is expiring with no new policy to sort of follow directly on the back of it. But yeah, as I said, those 2 points, you know, you can still take it into account. And not only that, but it's also been mentioned by other responsible authorities as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Overton, for the clarification and also drawing our attention to aspects of the policy that we need to bear in mind. Thank you very much. Okay. The committee will now retire to take a decision. You're welcome to remain in the meeting to hear the committee's decision. However, this may take some time. If you don't want to wait, a summary decision will be published on the Council's website tomorrow morning. Can I invite Councillor Thorley and Councillor Smith to join me in the separate meeting to deliberate, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. I will see you hopefully shortly.
Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Can you all hear me okay? Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah.
I will now read the decision. The committee has considered an application for the grant of a premises license for a limited time only until the 31st of January 2022 under the Licensing Act 2003 for the provision of late night refreshment of the premises. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of this case and the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, to reject the whole application. A copy of this committee decision, including its reasons and the full text of the conditions, will be sent to the parties in due course. If any parties are unhappy with the decision, they are entitled to appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. I'd like to thank everyone attending, watching tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.